I'm Sinet here for our first introduction to Soul, the School of Ultimate Living. So, before I start in explaining what Soul is exactly about, I'd like to share some background in relation to the School of Ultimate Living and how many years of research is actually within and behind this establishment. We have walked for many years to find a way for each individual person to be the best that they can be, to like discover that utmost best potential within themselves in a way that we have throughout many years found that within each one of us, no matter where we are, no matter who we are, there's a part of ourselves that knows we can do better, we can do more, we can be more. And with soul, we have found that little seed of hope, that little seed of potential. And we have developed methods and ways and techniques to take that seed within ourselves and let it grow, let it become something unique, something individual, something very special. All right. So this is the heart of soul. The heart of soul is essentially, that we'd like each individual person to find and discover and develop that part of yourself that knows you can be more, you can be better, you can, there's just something within you like this fire, this life that just wants to expand and express and open up. All right, so that's a little bit of history in relation to soul. And more specifically, all right, with soul, we have also found this common statements that's made within people. I mean, even myself as well, where, we sometimes ask, what is the meaning of life? Why am I here? What is my purpose? What is the reason for me, for my relationships, for, what's happened to me in my life? Those questions. And within and through the process with soul, will show you how you can change those questions of why is this happening and what is the meaning and how can I give myself more purpose? What is the reason for everything? How you can change those questions to actually giving yourself purpose, to actually creating reason, to create meaning, to create purpose for yourself, your life, and your relationships within that. All right. So this is actually, if I take it now from, the heart of soul to what the real gift of soul is to assist and support you to show yourself that you can give yourself reason, you can give yourself meaning, you can give yourself purpose. All right. So let's have a look at how exactly is this possible. All right. Let's have a look at words. Words in the sense of, words are a part of ourselves, a part of our lives. We think them, we speak them, we live them. But I've got an interesting example. Let's take the example of anxiety. If there's one thing I'm sure all of us have in common in some way or another, it would be anxiety. All right. Anxiety also for me personally, it's something that has been a part of me and my life in more ways than I could have ever imagined. But what was interesting as well, when my process started with understanding anxiety, with being able to define it, and this here is the first point that I want you to hold to, okay, is the defining process, defining anxiety. In other words, if you, for example, right now would have a look at, when in moments in your everyday life do you go into anxiety, like feeling anxious, almost, where you have those moments very similar to feeling stressed, feeling out of your depth, like, "Oh, I don't know what to do or how to handle this or who to reach out to," those really, oh my goodness, anxious moments. I'm sure, a couple of memories or references and moments and people would pop up in your mind right now. Okay. Same was for me in the beginning of being able to define my own emotions. I also only had, like, little moments or references or relationships in my everyday life where I could say, okay, those are the moments where I'm becoming anxious. But when I got to a point of being able to understand anxiety a lot more, a lot better, a lot more specifically, I actually realized that I was in, almost for most of my days, in quite an anxious state. And how anxiety was quite linked to fear, to inadequacies, to inferiorities, to so many other things. And I was amazed that I initially thought that anxiety was only like boxed in this one little container. And if I feel that anxiety or that experience of anxiety, then okay, yes, then I'm anxious. But the more I got to know myself, the more I got to know anxiety and define it better, and really allow myself to experience it in moments, really like sit back and ask myself, okay, how does anxiety really feel? It opened my eyes to seeing that I've actually been more anxious throughout my everyday life and my life in general than I consciously conceive. So this is the first, let's say, step of awareness that Soul will assist and support you with, to getting to know your own emotions, your own experiences, that even those emotions and experiences we have in everyday life, even that we take for granted. We don't always realize the extent to which we experience things. So with soul, the first step, and this is why I said just keep that first step, in mind, is to define yourself. I mean, we've got to get to know ourselves in the most simple, basic things that we experience in everyday life. To from there be able to ask ourselves, but is this the word? Is this the experience that I want to live, that I want to be, that I want to become when I respond to something or someone? Now, here we get to the next phase, the next step, which is the defining process. What is defining, redefining process? The redefining process happens where this whole world inside yourself and your life opens up. We realize, oh my goodness, I'm actually experiencing and going into and accessing anxiety more than I realized. Like my whole state, my whole being, my whole experience has kind of always been anxious, fearful, cautious, and then you just get this realization of like, wow, you know, do I really want to continue living in this way? And here is where soul definitely comes in, because we can show you practically the ways, the methods, and the techniques where you can choose different words to live, to become, to express in moments, rather than anxiety or being anxious or fearful or stressed. So, obviously, this is quite a process, and I'm sure, many in this moment, even like breathe and sit back and go, but I've never even asked myself this. We've always thought that fear or anxiety or all these stress emotions and experiences are part of life. Like, this is me, this is the only response or experience, or shall I say, reference that we have to be who we are when it comes to certain moments or relationships with people or demands and obligations and responsibilities. And I mean, I've been there myself. I was also amazed at the fact that, I could change a moment of anxiety to something more, something better for me and for others. Let me give you an example. So I was always this very shy, introverted, scared, on my own individual. I don't know, I had like this very general experience of just always being afraid, always being anxious. And when I started this process of realizing that I can make a choice to change me, to change my moments, to change my experience in my relationship with others, I was just shocked and taken aback. I was like, this couldn't be so easy. Why have I never known this? Because if I'd known sooner in my life about everything that I know now, I would have done so many moments, so many decisions, so many experiences, so much differently. So, I mean, obviously, this process will take time. You've got to, in a way, develop the awareness, but also the realization that you can change moments and you can change what you experience within a moment by just making a decision, but not only making a decision, but making a decision with awareness. What do I mean by that? So this is where my process started, for example. With me always being anxious, stressed, and fearful, I realized that, in moments when I'm anxious or stressed or fearful, I want to be more calm, more confident, more, at ease with myself. So then my process started where I first had to kind of look at, where in moments in my life was I very explicitly, like definitively, absolutely going into anxiety. So then I would look at my everyday life and go into those moments, those relationships with people, or, when I was asked to do things or take responsibility. That was one of my personal major points, when it came to taking responsibility, and a lot of it, I would immediately almost go into stress and anxiety and fear. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to decide to live a different word, a different experience, a different part of me. That it's like in the back of my mind, I always knew that I could do better. I could be more calm. I could be more confident and stable. But it was like I could never get there. And this is also an important point. I'm sure many of you are able to relate to that. You sometimes just know you can do better. There's just a part of you that knows how differently you can respond or express or speak and behave, but it's like that part inside yourself just doesn't want to come through in moments. That little problem right there is what soul can help you with. And the only reason why that problem exists is because you haven't yet really defined what it means to be confident, what it means to be stable, what it means to be at ease with yourself. So, what I then did from there, and this is the redefining process, where you start including more words within yourself, your awareness, your living. All right. So then I realized I don't really know what it means to be confident for me in my personal relationship with myself. I don't really know what it means to be at ease or stable. So then from there, you start just writing, just looking at what is it, how does stability feel? How does it feel to be at ease? How does it feel to be more confident? Because we are an interesting breed as humans, for sure, in the sense that if a part of me already knows what is best for me, if a part of me already knows my potential in moments, that I know I can be more at ease, I know I can be more confident, I know I can be more stable, then those words and those expressions already exists in me. I just haven't actually lived them. I haven't actually, with awareness, decided to become them, to apply it, to when the anxiety comes up inside of me, just say to myself, no, I choose in this moment to not go into anxiety, to not entertain it. I choose my stability. I choose my confidence. I choose to be more at ease with myself. And, just that moment, everyone, and this is, with soul, this is the moment that I would like everyone to experience, to see, to recognize within yourself, that in even those simple moments where you go into anxiety, you can take just an in breath and an out breath and go, you know what? I'm not going to be anxious in this moment. I know there's a part of me that can be more stable, that can be more confident, and that can be more at ease. And then you just in that moment make the choice to be that, to become that. So, after my own process as well, one of the most difficult challenges that I faced was where, all of us have this point of, but if I make the decision to change and the choice, and I know what I want to be and become, it must happen like that. Yeah, it must be here now. I must be confident. I must be stable, and I must be at ease. But Rome wasn't built in a day. It's also what I realized. And I kind of fought with myself for some time as well, because I thought, but I can see what I want to become. I can feel it. But why isn't it happening right now, right here, in this very moment? And, I kind of did go through a process of thinking that I was doing something wrong or not good enough, or, just can't change. It's not worthwhile. It's going to take too long. All those thoughts and backjumps came up. But then I remembered, and I'm going to stick with the statement, Rome wasn't built in a day. My response of being anxious when it came to people asking me to take responsibility was something I could trace back into my childhood, even before I could even remember. I've always just accepted becoming anxious and fearful and stressed whenever it came to responsibility. I never even questioned or breathed or sat back and, asked myself, but is this who I want to be? Is this how I always want to respond to responsibility? Is this what I'm going to accept? Is this word, anxiety, and the experience within it, the word I want to live in this moment? Because that's the one thing we never realize. We never realize that what we experience in moments, how we think and how we behave, are actually words we're living. Our words we're experiencing, and therefore our words that defines us in those moments. So I then came to the acceptance of the fact that I'm not going to be able to change in like a snap of the fingers or a magic wand or, some miracle. I'm going to have to give myself the respect, the gift, the time, the dedication, and the patience to teach myself and so many parts of me and on so many levels of myself that I've conditioned throughout all my life, you know. And this is my mind, my being, my body, everything of me for years. I've kind of placed in the instruction inside myself that when it comes to taking responsibility, you are going to react in fear, anxiety, and stress. So now there's this little light that's kind of come up inside myself, this little seed that's being born, that's saying there's something more, there's something better, there's something else. And I've got to show myself and prove to myself that the word confidence, being at ease, trusting myself, being stable is a part of me that's real and that's genuine. And that no matter what, I'm not going to give up. And I'm going to show myself that, this is who I am. This is what I want to live. This is what I want to express. So therefore, sometimes it took a couple of weeks, other times a couple of months. It depended on how long I've lived a certain word. Like, for example, my process with anxiety, it took me about three years to walk through it, because I've always just been anxious. I've been an anxious person in many different ways. And this is also something so cool with Soul, is that I always thought anxiety was just this one little thing that I experienced in certain specific moments, which is what I also mentioned in the beginning of this hangout. But the more I got to know myself, the more I got to understand anxiety, the more specific and meticulous I became with getting to know experiences, my body, how it affects me, my mind, and my body. The more I saw, oh my goodness, I'm actually living anxiety in so many different ways. So yeah, it took me 3 to 5 years. And I'm sure many of you would possibly have a thought come up saying, what, 3 to 5 years just to walk through anxiety? But, do consider the fact that only the only one reference that came up in you of what anxiety is for you right now was more just the conscious surface levels, the everyday life little things. But there's actually so much more. But at the same time, the greatest gift, through walking through this one word, anxiety, and making the decision and choice to change myself in moments, I've learned to become the word self-trust, confidence, stability, endurance, perseverance, acceptance, drive, motivation, not giving up, standing, absoluteness. Like, so many parts of me, so many new words, so many expressions came up within me that I'm living to this day, just by working through and walking through my one word and one experience of anxiety. And, this is also, like, I sometimes look back and I'm like, girl, you wouldn't have realized so much of yourself if you didn't even walk through that one word. Now, I can even, for example, right now for yourself, if you list down all the words that you're living and experiencing in your everyday life that is compromising you, that is consequential in some way or another, that creates that experience within you of being less than. Within each one of those words, let's say, for example, you've listed fear. worry, concern, giving up, apathy, postponement, procrastination, um, anger, resentment, tiredness, exhaustion. If with soul, will show you a process of how within and through each one of those words you can discover 10 more, and even plus that, 10 plus of new ways in which you can live and handle your moments, your relationships, and everything that you face in everyday life. I mean, this was something, really significant for me, for sure. I thought throughout my life that, when things happen, I can only react in this way or respond in that way and feel this way and act that way. And I never realized how much potential there really is in my relationships, in moments in my life, that I can actually create myself. I can actually become so much more, so much better in who I am and how I think, how I look at things, how I experience myself. So, I mean, with what I've realized and so many others as well, there's one thing that I see that can unite us all as people. And again, I'm saying, doesn't matter who we are, where we are on this earth. There's one thing that unites us that makes all humans equal and one. We all have emotions. We all have feelings. We all face ourselves in our everyday life, in our relationship with people, in the unpredictable, shocking, surprising things that we face in our everyday life. And I mean, for me personally, this is the one thing I've dedicated myself and my life to. And that is that I know, as much as I've seen it in myself and so many others, that one seed of life, of potential, is in each one of us, where we know we can be better. We know we can be more. We know that there is a best within ourselves and even other people. I mean, that's also the one thing that I've realized, is when you meet other people and you can just see this potential in them, these little moments with them, where they speak or do something, even in the smallest, most subtlest of way. And you almost just want to cherish those moments when they speak, or when they do something, or when they share something. You see that light within them, that life, that seed of hope, seed of potential. So for me, I would love each one to just give this a go, from this hangout, try and do this one thing, because I know each one of you has got those moments of anxiety within yourself and your everyday life, or just even your memories and things where that anxious, stressed, fearful moments come up. Okay, now do one thing. Ask yourself, have I ever asked myself if I want to continue always being anxious about these things? How would I change? How would my relationship with something or someone change if I, in this moment, decide to just be more calm instead? Just be more stable, just be more grounded. Like, okay, the anxiety will still come up, but there's a moment where it comes up and you just decide, no. Take a deep in breath. Take a deep out breath. Slow down. Calm yourself. You'll know what it means to be calm. You'll know what it means to be more stable, more grounded. You've got the keys, you've got the access, and you've got the potential inside yourself already. And that's something I've also realized. I was like, whenever I became anxious, and I started just practicing defining and living words, where, okay, this anxiety is coming up. Now I'm living this word anxiety, but I don't want to be this anxiety right now. I don't want to live this word. I want to live calm. I want to be calm right now. That I could, in that moment, breathe and slow down and just repeat the word calm, calm down, slow down, chill. um, that it surprised me, it shocked me that I already knew and I could already feel what is best for me in those moments. So this in itself is something quite beautiful and extraordinary, that you may just find that you'll be able to walk this process a lot easier than you thought you would. But it obviously will take time. You've got to, because you've conditioned all your responses to, for example, continuing with anxiety, that you've always just been anxious and reacting in anxiety, and all the thoughts and experiences coming up within you, that it's going to take a moment to just remind yourself every time, no, I'm not going into anxiety anymore. I'm now being calm, grounded, stable. What was amazing for me as well was how much more clearer I could think. I could make decisions, and I could speak and behave in moments where, instead of going into anxiety, remaining calm, collected, and stable. And like, sometimes looking back at moments and going, why did I go into anxiety in the first place? Why didn't I just live these words, these new words, these better words for me and for others? I mean, it started having an effect in other people. They started depending on me a lot more, trusting me a lot more, giving me more responsibility, interestingly enough. Where here was little old me always being anxious when it came to responsibility. And then soon enough, I was just being given responsibility, and I was able to handle it and direct it, and stand in that position in a way that I eventually had people look up to me. But not only that, I could stand at a point within myself where I could help so many other people also take responsibility, also step up, not give in to your emotions, to the words and the experiences that you're just accepting and allowing in your everyday life. Right. So this is it for this hangout. More a personal sharing in relation to how much we've taken words for granted, but not only that, how much we've taken our own potential for granted, our own power, our own creativeness. But at the same time, we can't necessarily say we've taken it for granted if we haven't ever realized that we had it in the first place. So with soul, this is the gift that we have discovered and uncovered within ourselves, that we have the ability, we have the power to decide, to make a choice in moments. And that power and ability to make the choice and the decision to be better, to be more, to be the best that we can be. And this is the gift that I would like each one to discover and uncover within yourself. So take an example of your emotions, your experiences, things you're struggling with. Make a list of words. I would just suggest, because I've kind of covered anxiety within this hangout, is to take the word anxiety and say, okay, I've always lived this word anxiety. What other word can I live that will actually support me most, support me better, and support moments and decisions and choice that I have to make? And you can use the examples of being more calm, slowing down, being more collected, being more stable. See what words comes up within you that you can practice living. And whenever that anxiety comes up, you just remind yourself, no, 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 no. I don't want to live this anxiety right now. It's a bit too compromising. I choose to live calm, stability, groundedness, slowing down. And you'll be amazed, even those little moments, the power, the ability, the gift that you have to decide to live a different word, a different part of you, a different expression and experience that will not only change you, but will change your relationship with people, will change moments in your life. And, what is the one thing we all know? It is the moments that defines us. It is the moments that creates us. Even the moments in our lives we tend to take for granted. What do I mean by that? Just have a look at how many moments in your everyday life do you actually go into anxiety. Are you even aware of that? This is why soul very specifically walks through a defining, a redefining, and a living process. Because to be able to change and to be able to know how to change and what to change and to discover that potential of change within ourselves, we need to get to know ourselves. I mean, have we ever even done that? And that also coming back to where I was just shocked at how much anxiety affected me in my life. And I didn't know it because I never sat back and really looked at it, introspected, or investigated it in any way whatsoever. So with soul, you walk an extraordinary process of getting to know yourself for the first time. And that's important because to get to know yourself, you'll be able to see yourself. To be able to see yourself means, yes, you'll get in touch with the good and then the not so good. But it's a good thing in the sense that getting in touch with the not so good, you can see, okay, yes, this is me. This is who I am. This is how I've been thinking and reacting and behaving. But now I know I have got the power and ability and the creativeness inside of me to change it. Okay. So everyone, this here, getting to the conclusion of this hangout for tonight is give yourself the space and the time in your everyday life to show you and yourself this one point of how you can, in a moment, take a breath and just step back and say, no, I'm not going to continue being anxious in this moment. I don't want to live this word anxiety right now. I choose to be calm. I'm going to be calm. It may take you a couple of seconds or a minute just to, ease into the calm, but everyone, just, you can show yourself in that one point. You will see what soul is about, showing you that moment, because that, even in its smallest, seemingly most insignificant experience, is the key, is the power, is the gift, is the seed to us humans on this earth becoming what we've always known and could see and have hoped ourselves to be and become. Show yourself that you can, in moments, change yourself, even in those smallest moments. Because if you can change yourself in the small, you can for sure change yourself in the big. Okay. So from this hangout, this is what soul is about. In those moments, redefining, defining, and living words. We're all about words. Showing you, assisting and supporting you to realize the power of words, to realize the power of yourself, and really opening up the floodgates of words. you can have a look. Have you ever really realized that you've just accepted the words anxiety and fear and stress and worry and concern, and you're just living those words over and over and over again? It's words that you're living. So what would happen to you in your life if you, with awareness, decide to live new words, different words, more words that support and assist you to become the best you can become, to create your everyday life into the best that it can be, to change your entire experience of you and your life as it is now. All right. So for a moment, I'm going to keep a minute or so open for any questions that any of the viewers may have. So please, in the next 2-3 minutes, if you have any questions at all, go ahead, ask, and I will respond. And in the meantime, I will also prepare you for our next hangout, which will be about ultimate living. We have said it's the school of ultimate living, but what does it mean to ultimately live? Again, even with hearing the words ultimate living, you will feel or sense that there's a part of you that knows that there is that something, that more, that better, that best. So in the next hangout, we'll define the words ultimate living. What is the process within and behind it? Yes, there's a process. There's always a process of creation. But what's the one thing though, throughout everything that I've also personally learned about words, is that I know that I can stand by the fact that I defined myself. I'm living me. I am experiencing and expressing words that I decided to, that I chose to. With all the words that opened up through me, from walking through one word, which was anxiety, stability, confidence, trust, motivation, being dependable, trustworthy. It's just extraordinary. And this is the one gift that I would like each one to have, is to realize how much more you can become through deciding to live words, to define words, to practice them, to become them, to express them. Obviously, what does that all of that mean? A lot more will open up in the next hangout. But for this one, I would say it's important for each one to see that potential inside yourself, that hope, that spark of life, by making one decision and one choice in moments. All right. So we'll go to here for this hangout. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I hope, even though there were many questions, that it's all clear and specific. And please do continue following us in the next hangouts to come. We will give a lot more clarity and definition and specificity to how exactly to identify the word you're living now that defines you and your everyday life, and how you can add new words, how you can live new words, become new words, experience them and access them to create a better you and create a better life. All right. Thank you very much.